What is going on, y'all? KMBest here. Grand Arena dropped with a bang and is getting some very positive reception. So let's talk about what the metagame is looking like in Grand Arena and how to best rank up on those glory tracks and claim your cards. We'll be going through each of the champions and talking about what I believe the best build for each of them is right now. Remember, this is day one. There is a ton that can happen, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video in a little bit of a fun prediction section. So let's start with Mr. Fantastic. This is a deck that is basically a straight upgrade of the Precon, and you will see a ton of Mr. Fantastic, both the Precon and this sort of upgraded version, throughout this game mode as far as I can tell. This has been the most consistent I can reasonably expect this deck to show up at any single level of play. There is just a ton of Mr. Fantastic, and it's pretty easy to see why. The baseline power of this deck is very, very high. It has a ton of unique and interesting interactions in it, and I think most importantly, it's able to immunize itself from tech cards by the use of Cosmo. Tech cards are a force in this metagame. They aren't the only thing to do in this metagame, but being absolutely 100% immune from them thanks to a Cosmo when you draw it is extremely powerful. You can tell how much respect we have for this deck existing by the fact that we are playing Super Skrull in our own ongoing list. Of all of the things that there are to take issue with in various iterations and implementations of game mode, I don't think this is the biggest one, but what I will say is that it is a little awkward that mirrors of this deck are defined by who has Super Skrull, and the Precon deck doesn't have Super Skrull in it. That is not a good feeling. All of that said, this is a deck that is looking to use the extra energy that it has in a very powerful way. As you watch this video, you'll notice a couple of trends, and I'm going to point them out as we go. Trend number one that you should start taking notice of right now is there are going to be a lot of decks playing Sera. There are a couple of cards that really stick out as uniquely powerful in this game mode and uniquely used across many of these different decks. Sera is definitely one of those cards. Being able to get 2 turns of cost reduction means that she is going in a vast variety of different decks. That is going to be one of the very big standouts of this early day one metagame report for Grand Arena. Keep an eye on Sera. You know, honestly, when I finished the last part of this video the way that I did, I kind of didn't expect that this would be the next part of the video and really drive the point home in this way, but it worked out well. Invisible Woman is in a bit of an awkward spot. I don't think that she is incredibly unplayable or awkward or particularly bad, but there are some things that might just be better than her. For example, if you play this list but in a Herby shell, I think you kind of end up with a better deck a lot of the time because it's not like you're getting too much energy out of Invisible Woman in the first place, and Herby is giving you 2 energy off of his spell, and so it's like, oh, okay, I mean, I'm kind of getting what I want anyway out of the Herby thing, and also Herby gets to be a really big guy, which this deck doesn't have a lot of. So Invisible Woman is an early lag behind her here, I think. And a lot of people are going to accredit that to, you know, oh, it's because of Alioth, it's because of Cosmo, they should ban Alioth and Cosmo. I don't really think that's true. I think it's honestly much more that, like, you can do this kind of deck much better in Herby. You can even do a tech deck much better in Doctor Doom. And I think that this is a very interesting game mode for what it allows people to do, but I also think that it would be prudent of Second Dinner to take a strong look at decks like this and say, maybe we don't want them in the game mode. Now, I did check in, and I do believe that Second Dinner will have the opportunity to update the ban list about a week into the game mode. So if things get really dire, they are going to be able to make instant changes if they feel the need to. I'll tell you, after playing a bunch of this game mode, the number one change on my list would be Sera. I would also see if it was possible to buff Invisible Woman in some way. Maybe that's not really the kind of thing they'll be able to do. Maybe it's just ban list updates. But as is, I do think it's awkward that the archetype that she was intended to work with is just doing better stuff with other champions. And it's not the most intuitive interactions with those other champions, but it is kind of just, oh, this is much better without the Invisible Woman stuff. I'm not going to pretend like Cosmo and Eliath being really important parts of this format isn't impacting this, but also it's mostly just that it's better elsewhere. One of the things you can see in this list is the immense amount of respect that a normal deck has to have for the ongoing deck. There are a lot of decks in this game mode, and very few of them can compete with the ongoing deck on points, just straight up. It is the you must be this tall to ride of the format. It also has Cosmo. There's just not a lot you can do other than try to time your interaction such that you just kind of screw them over. I can't tell you how many games I've lost playing a tech deck to just like someone played Cosmo. It is absolutely backbreaking. So for anyone who's thinking, oh, it's the tech decks that are the problem here, I don't really think that's true. I think people are forced into playing tech decks out of respect for how big the ongoing decks can get. It's not like something they absolutely want to be doing, it's something they kind of have to be doing. And even though in a deck like this, Human Torch First Steps is getting big, he's getting normal big. He's scaling in a fairly normal way. Whereas something like Iron Man scales exponentially. And that is ultimately the problem that a lot of these decks run into. That said, this deck is legit. It is absolutely fine, and there is nothing bad I can even come close to saying about this. It is a great combination of points and tech. Wong Surfer is almost never the correct decision to be making, except in the context of getting that Wong on turn 3. There are so many cards that are able to really shine in this game mode that otherwise are totally unplayable because they're just a turn late. Something like Onslaught is always a turn late, mostly unplayable. Wong, always a turn late, mostly unplayable. Man, are they good in this game mode. This game mode is like Snap, but with more fun, viable cards, because that extra energy just enables people to do really cool stuff. I will say that it does mimic the real metagame in a sense, which is to say, this is not going to be as different from a ladder metagame as like Sanctum Showdown is. The rules here are still pretty similar. What you're going to see is a lot less combo decks and a lot more consistency, because the combo decks on ladder take advantage of snapping, and the consistent decks are really just there to win 2 cubes. So I can see that the potential for this game mode to go bad is mostly located in that, right? It's mostly all of the stuff that could go bad is that it's all the boring decks. Oh, it's all the boring decks in this game mode. Right now, it's awesome, but I can totally see that happening. And I think that this is the kind of thing that people might not really appreciate, right? That Wong is actually correct in a Surfer list, so you just dominate the mirrors with a Wong. That's just the kind of thing that might go unnoticed. People are just going to look at this and see, oh, it's Surfer again. Here is a weird one for you. This is Butt's list of move thing, and it is just a very fun and unique take on what this deck is trying to do. Now, the idea here is to use your move cards to supplement your points while also discounting the thing's spell, and because the thing is so large and so lane winning in this deck, you basically end up picking 2 lanes to win and just say, that's the lanes I'm going to win, I'm going to go for it. The thing also gives you a little bit of interaction onto these ongoing lanes, which are often more than the sum of their parts. Thing blowing up an Iron Man, thing blowing up a Moonstone. Thing will hit basically everything in the entire game, which makes him an absolute monster in the context of having enough points to win another lane, which you absolutely can do thanks to the power of the move package. This is a unique deck, and it might not be the best Thing deck long term, but I've been way more impressed with this than with anything else that's doing this kind of stuff. I think that like there was some people succeeding with Scar Thing decks. I did not have any luck with that. It didn't feel like I was able to discount my spell enough. It was actually the worst deck I played all night, and I tried Mad Thinker decks on ladder, so that should tell you something. This is a very good deck, on the other hand. It's just going to take a lot of finagling. You're going to have to do things like guess what your opponent is going to do, and try to figure out what lanes you need to target. Where is the thing going to go? How likely is the thing to hit things that are really, really big? You also have Spider-Man 2099, so you can double up on the boom booms if you need it. Again, that is pretty important in a metagame, or a game mode, I should say, that is sort of built on these decks combining into being more than the sum of their parts. Having things that can take those parts away is a very useful effect to have. Herby is the other really major trend I wanted you to take notice of. This guy is honestly pretty messed up. One of the things that has become clear to me is if you're just doing something that doesn't really involve the champion mechanic. So if you're playing a Clog deck, or if you're playing a Sera tech deck, or if you're playing a War Machine Storm Legion deck, it's just better to do it with Herby. I'm showing the Clog here, but honestly, like, this could be anything, right? Like, Herby is the generic champion. This is the guy I expect, like, if you hate metagamers, you're going to hate this guy, because he's going to be the home for all sorts of stupid stuff. He's going to be home for War Machine stuff. He's going to be the home for this kind of stuff. Anything that says you don't get to play the game or your contributions don't matter, that's what Herby is going to be supplementing. And the reason he's going to be supplementing that is because his play pattern is basically you play him out, you double him, you play the spell, and he just has 12 power. He's just a 2/12. And the spell gives you 2 energy, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just, he can win lanes on his own, and also you're getting 2 energy and some more power as well. That's pretty much Herby's whole deal. You don't have to double him, by the way. Like, what you can do is try to roll the spell in the right order such that, like, it gives him a buff and then doubles him, and then you double him again from there. The point is you get to double him twice, is basically what I'm getting at. And the fact that you get to double him twice with such a minimal investment means that he's going to be the home for all sorts of stuff. Anything that doesn't hook into specifically what the other champions are doing. Like, you're not going to be playing Herby ongoing, because that's what Mr. Fantastic is doing. But you can do Herby Sera Tech, you can do Herby Clog, you can do Herby War Machine. Even though you'd think that would be a Doom deck, it's probably better with Herby. That is just how good the spell is. This list is an early favorite of mine, and it is definitely, I think, something that people may grow to despise. What we're doing here is succeeding at playing Agatha on every turn too. Basically what we're doing is playing Sera Tech, except with 14 free points. You play Agatha on turn 2 because you play the Doom thing on turn 1. Agatha always plays herself on 2. There she goes and does her thing. And then you spend the rest of the game just blowing up things your opponent did. If they tried to interact with you, they're foolish. If they're playing Storm stuff, oh, nice lockdown lane. I have Doom into Absorbing Man. There's just a lot here. It's just a lot of points and a lot of interactive cards, and that is just going to be flat good. This feels like not necessarily the best deck in the format to me, but if you just want a deck and you're just like, Cam, what do I grind out? What is the thing I'm supposed to be playing right now? Just play this. You'll probably be fine. I find it very hard to believe that this deck is actively going to be bad. You get to use Agatha to, like, thin your deck, and also she is 14 power, so it's effectively just no downside deck thinning with 14 power on it. It's pretty stupid. It's a pretty worthwhile use of that Doom spell. Turn 1 Doom spell, turn 2 Agatha, turn 3 to 6 you just play Sera Tech. It's very straightforward, and it's another part of the reason why I'm so down on Invisible Woman, because I think there are actually straight up 2 decks that do Sera Tech better than her, and it's this, and it's also Herby. And so I just don't know if she does anything well right now. So I know I said I was down on Invisible Woman, but I think I'm more down on Moleman than any other champion. This is effectively the upgraded precon, and it's really all you can do with them. And it's not very exciting. Another direction you could go that might have some interesting implications is you could go for Mysterio, Moonstone, and Patriot. That is compelling to me. I don't know how fleshed out it's been, but I saw Ika messing around with it, and it's like, okay, I'll take anything at this point. And I think that desperation is really what I'm trying to convey with this guy right here. Moleman is just, he's the closest you're going to get to playing a normal Marvel Snap deck in a game mode where everyone else is doing something messed up. You are not doing anything that's close to the power level of the other decks here. And I think that's sort of fundamentally the issue with Invisible Woman 2. All these other decks are playing their normal strategy, but better. And Moleman is playing his normal strategy, and it's like, all right, it's kind of the same. Like, if you didn't get the hood and you didn't get misery, it doesn't really matter what the rest of is going on here. You're just kind of getting owned. It's a compelling card that I previously wasn't excited for before I saw the Patriot stuff. Now I'm a little more excited for, but I'm not really sold on it just yet. And especially in this game mode, I don't really know where this deck is supposed to go, and I'll be pretty surprised if it manages to move any further direction upward. You know what time it is. So this build of Destroy is geared around taking advantage of the fact that we have 2 guaranteed destroys in the opening hand and trying to make Deadpool as big as we possibly can. It is a little bit all in on Deadpool, but the fact that we have these 2 guaranteed destroys is really cool. We also get to hopefully take advantage of the Kid Omega interaction with Deadpool, but don't get it twisted, Kid Omega is not required for this deck. Literally any destroy card is fine. I just wanted to play Kid Omega because I like his interaction with Deadpool where he gets the buff afterwards. So if you use Kid Omega very late in your Deadpool cycle, which is extremely likely because you are very much going to be carnaging it for the first couple of them, you'll be able to get more points out of the Deadpool and onto the Kid Omega. That is basically the straightforward explanation for why I like him over whatever other one, but he is very far from required. This is a deck that also has a bunch of really cool Arnim Zola stuff going on. Zola, a bit of a sleeper, I think, where I think Zola stuff is pretty compelling because Zola's main issue has always been that he's always a last turn card, and now suddenly you can set up Zolas much better, and you can early Zola much better. You can ramp into a null on 4 and then Zola the null on 5. There's just kind of a lot that this deck is capable of. Granted, it is just like a very there's nothing special going on here, but it is very clearly like this is Destroy but better. And for a deck that cares so much about being able to final turn Deadpool plus something else, being in a game mode that has 7 energy is honestly just sick. I think there is room to improve on this list. This is the list that I think maybe as we start deck building better for having 2 destroys in there. I don't think everyone's sort of caught on to that just yet. There's room to go up here. There's a cap, there's a ceiling, but I do think there's room to improve for the destroy, straight up. So I said I was going to do a little bit of a fun predictions section. So here are my predictions for the game mode. Number 1, Sera is a defining card in this game mode. Absolutely defining. Turn 4 Sera is just messed up. It just straight up is. That you saw a bunch of Sera in these lists, you're going to see a bunch of Sera in the game mode. Mobius is literally banned. She's going to be everywhere. Number 2, Cosmo, I think, is going to be a little more important than Alioth, weirdly, largely because Cosmo is the universal card that basically all of these decks can play. It's a little harder to be an Alioth deck. The Doom decks can be an Alioth deck. There are a couple decks that can do it, but it's a little harder to set up. Number 3, I think that Herby is going to become the defining champion of this mode, with a potential honorable mention to Mr. Fantastic. But Herby feels like he's just the generic home for whatever good stuff pile you want to play. If you aren't hooking into a champion specifically, and even sometimes if you are, there's a good chance that you just be better off doing stuff in Herby's shell than in anything else. Those are my way too early predictions for how this is going to go. I think that largely what this experience will be like is it's going to be like the normal Marvel Snap meta, but just 25 to 30% cooler. People are going to start actually customizing these things though. As far as the precons, there's actually a couple of interesting ones. The one that struck me as the most similar to an actual good deck, though, was the Mr. Fantastic one. And I gotta tell you, in as much as I like complaining about oh, the precons aren't good enough, I do wish there was a separate queue for them. But honestly, I lost to some precons. I don't think they're that far off. Some of them are. And they probably will get further off as people start figuring out whatever broken stuff they want to do goes in the Herby shell or whatever. I don't think this is going to be a panacea for everything that has ailed Marvel Snap. But I do think that it'll largely just be a better experience for a while. And I hope that it manages to do that. I was pretty blown away by this. I'm typically pretty anti-game mode. Not a game mode guy. Not really my thing. I was really into this. Like, it was just like a very fun thing to do. I really enjoyed it, and honestly, you might see me streaming more because of Grand Arena. Let me know what you think about Grand Arena content on this channel. As always, I have been KMBest. You have been phenomenal. If you want to see more Grand Arena, leave a comment. Let me know. I still read all of them. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. You have, of course, been phenomenal, and nothing can change that.